welcome to Die Rolling. We're a little bit late, so apologies for that.
Dice.
We'll get
No,
some dice
I'm playing
as we
a
go.
Zolan.
Yeah, I'll play the card.
I'm now Zolan. Oh, sorry. Is it set to Rich's voice?
Oh yeah, you guys are in the wrong seats. That will be very confusing.
Do we need to switch?
Yes, you do.
Go.
If you wouldn't mind, that'd be
Oh,
fine.
it's
Just
just
not
so
gonna step.
unprofessional.
Can't
So
step.
unprofessional.
I will introduce the fact that our good friend Felix is not with us. He isn't Felixing well.
It's gone to the vet.
So we're down to only the 5 of us. So without further ado, let's roll intro.
Good idea.
Hello, boys. Pink lemonade?
Mom!
Hello and welcome back. Thank you for joining us. If you're an old fan, welcome back. If you're a new fan, well, welcome. Bloody welcome to you. Come on in. Grab a seat, grab a cup of tea, and let's get started. Or a cider, as we know. Marvellous.
That tastes like shit.
Sadly, we don't have gentle profanity waves over the party. As we,
Sherbet. I said
Oh,
sherbet.
he said sherbet. Alright.
Are there not bots that bleep these things automatically?
Maybe we'll be investigated if we say too many blue words. Well, welcome back.
Cerulean, you mean?
Exactly. Normally we would have Felix do a recap of a previous session, but we don't need to because you've all watched it, so you know exactly what's going on.
He's not here.
And he's not here, so
None
we're
of us
just
are up to it.
and nobody else remembers what happened last session apart from me, and I'm going to do a lot of talking already, so we're going to leave it there. Marvellous. However, there's one thing to bring up. As the Bastion fought its great battle in the last session, you are now missing some key individuals who you've met. Those individuals being Bandor and Sildan. We did a little bit of a looking through their possessions and generally stealing things off them and finding things. Please remember what you found because they may or may not come useful later on. However, the first thing that happens is you will notice that young Felix, I presume he's young because he's a dog, young Felix being very dejected after our last session, particularly over his thought that he was going to be this hero that saved the Bastion, and ultimately the Bastion, while you were victorious, took some heavy losses. He was very close to Jammy, who I don't think you actually know his second name, so I'm not going to reveal it.
Don't know Jamie's name.
But you, the halfling leader of the Halfling Liberation Front, and gave him instructions to go to Willem. Felix and Jammy were talking over a long period of time, and Felix has actually pledged to assist Jammy in exchange for some knowledge on where Jammy believes they went wrong in the previous campaign. So Felix will be joining Jammy for the rest of this session. You do have Not around. You notice that some of the other able-bodied individuals, shall we say, helped you with burial detail and helped you with sorting out the remains of the Bastion, as it were. And then your plan at the end of the previous session was to blow up the Bastion, hoping that it would allow the Justicaries who were hunting you to believe that you had all been lost in the conflict. So it was kind of a bit of a cover-up, and that explosion was going to happen. So relatively quickly, if I could have Elantrix explain the operation of how this explosion has been prepared, we can take it from there.
I think it was over to Zolan.
Ooh.
Do you think?
From Alantrix's perspective, you're the alchemist. I know nothing of explosives.
I don't think Zola was particularly keen on blowing this town up, but he could be pushed.
We
I
have
can
missed one
imagine.
important part of information after we describe the how the explosion has been prepared.
It hasn't
Malkin is
happened yet.
suffocating.
Hasn't happened yet. No.
Is Malkin in there?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
Malkin's
Malkin
going
is in there. Yeah. Oh,
I'll work on that.
Yeah.
You do the explosion.
At some point, we're going to get around to the fact that I am suffocating inside a suit of
We
magical
will get
armor.
around to it.
Completely
How is
forgot
But
the-
you
about
carry on. You carry on discussing
how
explosives.
is the
Well,
explosion?
we've got some pre-buried barrels, which might help.
We do have some pre-buried barrels, but they might be slightly outside of the town. So they were positioned in a chevron. We probably would
I
have just.
think they were dangerously close to the
Do you
town
think? Yeah.
at the time.
To be
They
honest.
were buried pre-calculation of how big the explosion would be.
Was that okay? Yeah, that's true actually. Yeah, 100 foot. How big was the bastion again, or bastion? From a 100 foot. What kind of? What are we
Provided
working
that
with?
nobody goes back and checks the information.
Yeah.
Roughly, yeah, it was only about 100 foot in diameter because you could
Holy
travel
moly.
across it with three.
Don't need many barrels.
In 3 movements.
And
Many
we've got
barrels.
we've got a tent with 12 barrels in it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's more like 20. I think.
it's about 20.
Yeah, with
I
3
mean,
missing,
you know,
3 more.
all we've got to do
17,
is
something like
basically set a fuse
that.
and
Yeah.
and a long fuse, maybe half a mile or so, should be just about long enough.
Probably from the other county would be nice. We'll go over there before we start.
Or
off.
alternatively, we just throw something over the hill to blow it up and
I wouldn't
hide
wanna be
behind
that-
the hill.
I wouldn't want to be that close. I
No.
don't think to that explosion. But definitely, I can imagine we would have piled them up
Okay.
in a pretty epic tower.
Yeah.
And if anybody, sometimes of today, sometimes people like to be put into fireworks when they pass and be
Yeah.
shot off. If anybody wants to be in amongst the barrels, if they thought it was a good way to go, we'll put him in there. If Bandor wanted to be in the barrels, he could
I
be
think
in the
Bandor
barrels.
wanted to be
Do you
in
think
the
he wants to be in the
barrels.
barrels? Do you think?
Bandor
Yeah.
It's what he would have wanted.
We could have sat him right atop the top barrel.
I think it's probably a
Saluting.
good way of getting rid of any evidence that we were ever here,
Even
or
Bandor.
even the whole community was ever here.
I'd run that by naught before I put Bandor on top of the barrels. I wouldn't just do that.
He's obviously still mourning the fact of the death of his friend, but doesn't seem particularly perplexed as to how you will dispose of his body.
Okay.
Perhaps he's more bothered with the mortal realm.
Just
right
say to him, not your friend there. Did he ever express any desire to, go to the moon?
Still suffocating.
Yeah, that's how we're going to do it.
That's how
That's
you
how
do
we're
it.
going to do it. Yeah,
now.
we're
We're
going to do
explode
it.
the
Like
big barrels and
Yeah.
Big pile of barrels in
possibly
the middle
with
of them.
Bandor on top of them.
Possibly, yeah. We'll decide that
Marvellous.
at a later time.
So another interesting thing happened. That is that the Justicaries, or at least these Justicaries you've met, you don't know if this is universal or how common these things are, were inside some form of ancient armour that glowed jade and seemed to be relatively transparent. However, upon their passing, this kind of gave way to kind of a dull metal armour. Your good friend Malkin finally plucked up the courage to climb inside to see if he could operate this mechanism, which closed on him. As it closed, he realised that he was immobilised and couldn't breathe. You can't talk while you're in there. It's
I
covering your
can't
face.
talk.
Nope, it's covering your face. You can murmur, but that's about it.
What's your constitution? How long can you hold your breath?
He's -1 modifier.
Yeah, nice.
Not very
I
long.
think there's actually a table in the player's handbook, maybe,
Yeah.
for holding
Yeah,
your
yeah,
breath.
there is.
Yeah,
It's
with
definitely going to be
calm.
somewhere. It might even be on
I
my
think
list.
Let's check it out.
I
I
think it's
think.
literally seconds Malcolm can hold his breath.
Yeah.
Maybe we shouldn't check it out. Then. Maybe
You
we shouldn't.
You've been constructing a tower.
Hello!
It's the way you would like to.
It's the way you would like to go.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Maybe Malcolm going to be atop this tower in 10 minutes.
Actually, you
Maybe.
could put me on
We've
top of the
been
tower.
complaining
I mean, this
about
armour
breathing.
seems to be fairly indestructible.
You would be on the moon.
I could go and investigate Spetacaza before you even have to leave the area.
You can hold your breath for 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
God.
Oh, brilliant. Excellent. 30 whole seconds.
Then you start dying
Yeah.
quite quickly.
So if you guys could decide
Open.
the armour opens.
Close.
Over.
Do it.
I'm in the middle of town.
I'm doing that to where Felix was.
Oh, is it? Oh.
Okay, so we've established that activating the armour is not simply a case of climbing in it and...
Absolutely. You actually notice beforehand it could move its feet, and you kind of dropped acid on its feet on the hope that he would enjoy that in some way. You had the vague inclination this armour was perhaps sentient, but you're not entirely sure. It could nod its head slightly, but you are noticing as you are opening and closing it fairly regularly, the action of opening and closing is getting slower. Also, its movements are getting slightly jerkier and slightly slower. It seems to be, I won't be roll anything.
USB port?
Sorry?
USB port?
There are no USB ports as far as you can see, but it does seem to be quite obviously running out of charge in some way.
So we can't move the armour.
I think we get out of here.
We're going to have to bury it.
Under the pile.
We could put it under the pile.
Yeah, if we put it under the pile, there's a chance that everything else will explode, leaving the armour sat there. We've seen that it's almost indestructible.
It'd be a good learning exercise, in all honesty.
Yeah, but we don't want to leave any evidence. I'd rather we buried it where it's not going to potentially be blown back out of the ground.
You still got your wolves.
I think about 8 hours. No, it's
1 hour, one
two.
hour.
I get them for 1 hour, and I got them.
No,
at
we've
the last
been
quarter
hanging
hour of
around
the
for
fight.
quite a while, haven't we? So
Can you?
doing all
Well,
the
I
stuff.
mean, I've got enough strength to be diggable. Should we need a big hole? But
I think we need a big hole.
We need a big hole, I think. But outside I think we'll take them into the woods because we've still got the other damaged set of armour. I think we'll take them into the woods and bury them there, away from the blast radius. Because if we want to hide
We'll walk and talk.
all presence, then I think that's probably the best thing. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Carry it into the woods while.
well, yeah, as you say that, just like one big growl comes out of Thorin here, and lots of like clicking and metamorphosizing. It's the best 80s transformation scene that you've ever seen.
Nice.
As Thorin turns into this giant badger.
Nice.
Badger Thorin, yeah.
Badger Thorin.
Badger
Badger.
And
So, and Elantrix is visibly overwhelmed because she's never seen this before. It's horrifying. She takes steps back. She obviously uses magic, but this is an unusual thing to witness. She's just staring the whole time.
And so Badger Thorin is just going to wave. And he knows the plan.
Yeah.
No bones. We're going to rush this episode. He's going for it.
So you manage this. Armor's incredibly heavy, so it takes a few of you to carry it. I'm not going to make you roll for anything, but because with enough time you'll be able to carry it. Obviously, while you're carrying it, this thing is moving ever so slightly, which makes it even more awkward to carry. It seems to be trying to resist the fact that you're carrying it, but it's slowly getting more jagged and slow.
Which direction is it trying to move in? I want to take a mental note.
It's hard
Is
to
it
tell.
always
Obviously,
heading one way?
You're carrying it, so it's hard to tell. It's just moving, as in its limbs will be moving ever so slightly. And there's obviously the broken remains of another one of these armor sets as well.
Yeah,
more
we'll
fragmented.
bury that one too.
Try and gather that. How big is Badger Thorin?
It's giant Badger Thorin.
Giant Badger.
Giant.
So whatever we decided that was last time,
Yeah,
there were 8 of them.
Yeah, it's medium size.
Yeah, okay.
Rideable. You could probably plop it on his back.
Right.
All right. Well, yeah, we might do that.
It's a medium beast. So it's similar size to a
Dig a
human, which is
pretty big
terrible.
hole.
So you managed to get these armor sets into the woods.
No sign of any of the villagers there. They've all long gone.
Yeah, there's no sign of anyone. They've obviously fled.
Yeah.
To all intents and purposes, you believe they've continued to flee. You don't know where to, but they've obviously dispersed. And so
Home wreckers we are, aren't
Home savers.
we? Maybe.
and you dig a big hole.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm gonna. I can't talk at this point, but I'm just gonna be like, where?
Anyway, like, dig away, dig a big hole, chuck the armour in.
And Badger Thorin is gonna dig
Absolutely. Are you aiming to go deep, wide? How's this whole?
I think deep.
Yeah.
I think this is more of a
Yeah.
tunnel deep sort of
Tunnel
vibe.
deep down. When do you stop? Obviously, you can theoretically just keep digging as long as you want. So,
Molten core.
Yeah.
Just bedrock in Minecraft.
Getting hot down here.
He's gonna dig. He's gonna dig at least 10 foot down.
10 foot down. Big old hole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just straight down and then like back up.
Yeah. You bend.
Yeah.
You bend
And he's
back
gonna
out.
fill in one side
Nice.
behind him and then.
Clever. And you throw these things in there.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So this armor throws in. You throw it in. It makes this horrendous kind of clattering sound as these different plates kind of scrape against each other. But they do fall in. And presumably you fill in said hole.
Mm-hmm.
As you fill it in, you just see one of these armor sets just reach its arm
It's Terminator again.
slowly up. But as it starts to reach up, it does slowly fade into ceasing, and the arm stops moving.
So tragic. Zolan does feel like you were doing something wrong here.
We
Definitely,
can always come back for them.
definitely thinks these
We
are
know where they are.
sentient.
We know where they are. We can always come back
We
for
just
them.
buried them alive. Some elven soul trapped in armour.
Well,
No.
if they hadn't tried to suffocate me, we could have taken it with us.
That's fair enough.
Can Badger Thornir speak Druidic and leave messages in the forest?
That is a very good question. It depends what your what spell are you using to shapeshift.
So it's not a spell. It is
Ask the
wild
squirrels
shape.
to guard it.
It's just something that happens.
Cool. So it's like a spell-like ability.
Yeah, you get it a couple
Mm.
times ago. But regular old wood elf Thornir can leave little messages that other druids can pick up.
You're talking about pissing against trees, aren't you?
This is what this one will be, basically.
As non-badger thorn.
Well, yeah, wood
Either
elf
way
Thornir
works.
would have pissed on the tree. He would not at all.
That's a good point.
If not,
Unlikely.
I will
is what I'd
literally
say.
just climb up a tree and put a little X marks the spot near where we dug a hole. In regular old badger scratching.
Badger scratching. That's fine. In theory, so you, in theory, with you being a giant badger, it's as intelligent as you are. The problem is you don't have the vocal cords to be able to speak Druidic. Maybe if you practice for a long period of time, you make something that sounds like speech, but you wouldn't be able to speak per se. If you had a opposable thumb, you'd probably be able to write. So you could do anything to communicate you see fit, but what you wouldn't be able to do is physically speak, if that makes sense.
What I'll do is I will scratch a little X
Yeah, absolutely.
It's far.
in a tree that is at least as far as a giant badger can climb.
Yeah, which is quite far, so you'd probably be all right. Marvellous. So to mark out where this burial site is, which only leaves one more thing, which is how are you going to destroy the bastion? You piled up your.
Okay, we're going to need a long fuse, aren't we?
Yeah, first and foremost, I'm going to stand back.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good
I
one.
Learning
think-
from Malcolm.
There's enough.
Oh, yeah.
There's enough powder that you could trail it for sure.
Yeah.
We could. I've got a firebolt with 120 feet as well.
Yeah?
I
So
don't
we
think
can-
120 feet is going to be far
We can
enough.
trail some powder
We're
and
gonna
then
have to- yeah.
we can fire.
I think
we'll get 'em.
we'll leave it. We'll leave a powder trail all the way to the entrance of the woods,
Yeah.
and then get as far from that as possible, and then like that.
We ride the badger out of danger.
Oh, we have the explosion has to be going on if we're riding the badger. We have to exit the mouth of the forest with explosion.
That
He's
works.
just,
Fan
he's just
art, please,
holding on
fan
to the
art.
scruff, you know. Ah!
Badger Thornir escaping the explosion.
That would be good.
Not looking back.
Of course not.
Zolan hanging off him.
Yeah.
I'm doing proper buckaroos.
trying to knock me off, are you?
Cool, let's do it.
That's the
Do we
plan.
do
Then we're going to do this.
Absolutely. So the party and your friend or colleague, whatever you want to call him, not join together. You draw this fuse all the way out. It's pretty easy to do. You've got-
Before I do that, I'm going to rip some cloth and make earplugs.
well
To
done.
be honest, I am going to plug my ears,
Plug
and
your ears.
I would suggest everybody else maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you could do that.
I'm not sure if you can plug a badger's ears, but you
No,
can.
that's true. Actually, I'll hold them down
I'm
for
gonna-
him.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna
I'll
dig
fold
a
them
hole.
Emuing it.
Amazing.
Stretch.
I won't make you roll for it.
It's a
because
cantrip.
Yeah,
But
it's a
I could
cantrip.
try to roll.
You'll be able to.
I'll just keep firing. We're there for 3 hours. Just keep missing. Fire another one.
Twang.
God.
Oh,
This
no.
fuse lights, you're already a fair distance away from it.
Yeah.
You manage to actually clear the, and it burns relatively slowly, which is quite a surprise. You manage to clear the tree line. You're on the opposite side of the tree line, and you go into this expanse. If it wasn't for the impending explosion you all knew was going to happen, it'd be quite a serene scene. You go back into this bladed grass that's roughly a foot tall, and roughly an inch wide, and it's kind of waving. It gives this impression that there's this almost sea-like ocean of grass around you. It's quite, like I say, quite a serene vista of rolling hills as far as the eyes can see. There's not a huge amount of trees around, other than the ones you've just come from. And for a moment, just for a brief moment, you could easily be forgiven for thinking this whole thing with the Bastion didn't happen. That actually it's just some strange dream that you had. All the battle of the last night, completely gone. However,
And then
and then there was a huge noise. The whole ground around you shakes, and you physically feel as if the earth is vomiting as there's this huge explosion. If you were to look behind you, behind the tree line, you would see this huge fiery pillar.
oh, I'm looking.
This huge fiery pillar appears. You're momentarily hit by the fact that the individuals you were fighting not too long ago were trying to light this while you were fighting. And there's a mixture of awe but also horror at this explosion, of what you narrowly avoided when you were grabbing that flaming canvas. You can't see behind the tree line, but you imagine that everything within that crevice, everything within the bastion, is gone, completely obliterated. It takes a long time for that sound to dissipate, and much like you say, having earplugs, it deafens you somewhat.
Yeah.
But there's this huge ringing in your ears as this kind of shock wave passes over you. By this point, you are easily 500 feet away from the explosion.
Crikey. Not trusting halflings ever again.
You hear the kind of odd pitter-patter of dirt and earth kind of returning back.
Bits of the
to where it
mountain
was.
drop from the sky.
Absolutely. But it was a surface level explosion. You were clever not to bury anything, which would have caused quite a dramatic explosion.
And the hills around, of course, contained most of the.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Two things are immediately obvious to you, so I won't make you roll a thing. One, anyone in the near vicinity, easily within 1,000 feet, perhaps more, will know there's been a massive explosion of some description. And they won't necessarily be able to pinpoint it, but anyone who's a half-decent tracker will be able to know exactly where that came from. That is the first thing that grasps you. The second thing is that, other than the foot-long grass, as you look stretching north, you know Spetakaza to be in the north, there isn't a great many places to hide. There is a path that goes due north from where you are. The path, if you remember, is made from this oddly woven grass structure. You don't know if it's naturally forming or if it's been deliberately formed by some other means. It's almost wicker in the way that it's kind of been folded up. And it stretches on up into the north.
Next time you have the opportunity to meet with the Jester Crease, remember this, man.
We'll hide.
I tried to warn you.
You did, yeah. What a tragic sight. I think I'm going to give Not a pat on the back and just say sorry that this has happened. That was a,
He obviously seems taken aback.
what's a symbol of hope has just been destroyed.
Yeah, he obviously seems taken aback.
Yeah.
You don't know. You suddenly realise you don't know much about this man. The way you've been following around. Funnily enough, most of you will have seen through his facade now. but he does change form, and as he changes form, he changes to the visage of an elf, just an elf peasant. So it's not particularly eye-striking in any way. Just wearing kind of usual silken clothes. He remains silent.
So what will you do now? You going to come with us? We're going to inspect the cars there.
To be honest, I don't know where we're going to go. It was my hope that we would. I don't know. I just thought this would be different. That perhaps we'd have somewhere to stay for a while and not live a life quite so on the road.
I know you thought that action reckless, not. I spoke to my god beforehand and checked with her what the outcome would be if we tried your path. And the outcome was woe. It would have been worse. We took the only option.
It gives me some solace. Thank you. Sildon would have known what to do in these situations. I'm afraid I don't, but you need to get to Spedicasa, if nothing else. Maybe I can lead you there.
Do you know the way, do you?
It's not difficult. If I'm honest, you travel north. We'll hit what I believe to be the Spedicarsan curtain before we get too close.
Do we know what this Spedicarsan curtain is?
I've heard rumours. Some form of gnomish device. That's all I've heard. I've never seen it myself.
Is it like an iron wall? Is it an invisible shield? Do you know? Do you have any inclination of what this curtain
It's velvet.
might be? Yeah. Oh, there's no gap.
I'm afraid not.
No,
I
okay.
guess we're going to go find out.
We could do, yeah. Can I just investigate the area? I want to have an idea of where there's a mass of villagers have travelled to. I'm hoping that we can see trampled grass and potentially have some idea of maybe where these people have gone.
Absolutely, yeah. So you can do probably an investigation check.
That's a +6. I can remember that. Oh, where is it? 20, not natural.
20 not natural, absolutely. So streaming out of the forest, you'll see many footprints.
Yeah.
It has been openly trampled. The grass is almost flattened most of the way leading up to the path. From there, it's quite interesting. A few people have obviously just continued fleeing because there is some trampled grass, but amongst that, it dissipates.
Okay.
And you're imagining that when most people are confronted by this road, if you like, they've gone either north or south.
Okay.
You don't know which way. You know that, or at least you've been told that Felix and Jamie have headed south back to Villa. Other than that, you're not entirely sure.
Cool.
Spedicasa.
Indeed.
What are we doing in Spedicasa again? This really has been a distraction. I'm not going to lie. I can't even remember what we're going there for.
You wanted to disprove me of the story of the bell.
I remember the ridiculous nature of a 1,000-mile bell. Really, that is preposterous, and I would love to see a elvish meter, mile, yard. What was it? Is it yard to a mile? Feet? I don't know what it is. I'd love to see your measure there.
We're looking for the
mile.
We're looking for the chimes, Zolan. We're looking for Alex to report to Spedicasa and see what new information had arisen.
Yes, the marrow scared me. I think I'd left
What are,
the end of that
what are
conversation.
these chimes?
The chime in the human region when you heard the stories of the madness.
I felt the stories of the madness, yes.
We believe this was the first chime. The augurs believe in the 4 chimes of madness, arcana, of life and of the elements. And we believe these people signalled the first chime when they battled with Void. There are 3 more that are impending. A Spedikaza is the hub of the Augurs. Spedikaza is the central point where the group reside. It is their capital, really, our capital. If anyone will know where the next chime is occurring, well, it'll be there.
Do the Augurs offer sanctuary to others?
They certainly do.
You must don a robe, though.
Did you don a robe, Zolan?
I know that is true, actually. I didn't know. They did try. But yeah, you are right. I'm sorry. Yeah.
We are very welcoming people. We will try to educate and teach those who wish to be taught, to save you. But
Do you feel saved, Zolan?
I haven't got a clue. Oh well. Reserve my judgment until I see this bell, this knell.
But at the very least, if you can add some value to the people there, even if you choose to ignore the warnings, then we're as welcoming a group as you'll find in Asher.
That was reassuring. I was led to believe that I wouldn't be welcome.
With your heritage, I think people would be extremely interested in you. I've never met a Horned Elf before. The Horned Elves are one of the fabled bloodlines in which we're seeking.
See, if I can help, I know very little of my kind, I'm afraid. But if I can help somewhere in this world, that may be a good thing.
There'd be a lot of people interested to speak with you there.
I'm not sure why that is, but hopefully I can do it justice.
How many elves are in this world? We're the third type of elf we've met. Fourth type of elf I've met. Wood elves. High elves. You're high
Are
elf?
you still a badger? No.
Yeah, until instructed otherwise, he's just looking.
Badger elves.
Sea elves. Horned elves. How many elves are there?
Yeah. That's what I know of.
You're a high elf, Elantrix? Don't think I've ever asked.
I guess so.
Cool.
Or
Everywhere.
common elf, whatever you want to call it. Some people... I'm an elf.
Wow.
Depending what status you hold in Equa, depending on your feathers, you're deemed higher or lower.
What do you mean by the feathers?
Well, you
Is it,
saw...
is it a crest? Is
Not
it a...
changes his appearance as he do this, and he actually changes it similar to Bandor's appearance, but you notice as he does it, the hair on his head
Yeah.
actually contains feathers, almost
Ooh.
growing out of the hair.
Oh, not like placed in, almost. Oh,
Doranir has... normally has... Does the badger retain the sticks and the...
The badger's got a couple of little sticks.
Yeah.
I
So
thought
wood elves, have the trees grow from them.
And, I'm intelligent enough to point at it.
you didn't. I didn't think you cleaned. I didn't think you'd washed Thorinir. I thought it was just debris. I didn't know that was a part of you. That's a part. Is that actually? Is that a part of it? Is that a part of him?
2 years you sewed
Yeah,
on a chain of sticks.
I'm gonna walk over and start grooming you like a monkey and just actually giving them a little paw. I can't believe this. That you've just got you've got twigs hanging out.
Yeah,
There you are.
There they are, they
I
grow
thought-
out, see?
I didn't think.
They're not just in there.
I didn't know that at all.
Jeez.
Bloody hell.
Episode 1, I didn't make myself clear enough. The guy sat next to me.
2 years. 2 years.
Yeah, I just thought he just scruffy.
Oh, that is because they are slightly decaying and.
Oh,
and
yeah.
broken, so they're not
Yeah.
as fresh as they should be on a wood elf.
What a day today is.
Cheered you right up,
What a
man.
day of learning, eh? Crikey. I did not know that.
The sun's relatively high in the sky as you begin to proceed north, I imagine. And as you proceed north, there are rolling hills, not much changes, and there's a distinct lack of actual settlements and places. You're blown away by the fact that the elven land seems to be large, vastly large. And large, it's relatively uncultivated as well, which is strange for such a strong kingdom.
Seems greedy.
Absolutely. There's no kind of farmholds or places that grow food or anything of that nature. It seems almost unusual in that nature. Where the elves get the majority of their food, livestock, these things from, you're immediately unsure. but it's very large, very open, and very empty, for want of a better word. But you continue to travel north. You notice as you do so that you are very tired. You didn't sleep last night, if you remember. It's roughly midday, so roughly noon. Obviously, you wouldn't have no way of telling the time, so to speak, but it is roughly midday. And you were strongly hit by the fact that you are incredibly tired. You probably could push on, but by doing so, you need to be overexerting yourself at this point.
How far do we think we are from Spitacars?
Not seems to think.
And Atlantrix has been there before as well,
Oh,
so
you've
she'd
been
have,
there before?
she'd have a pretty reasonable idea.
You could probably get there by nightfall if you pushed on, but you don't know where the Spitacars and Cairns. It's hard to tell the distance with these rolling hills. You've been there a lot of times before, though, but you think you'd be able to get there by nightfall. It's roughly a day's travel from where you were. You all, in all due respect, you're probably travelling a bit slower than you would do normally. You're kind of dragging your feet a little bit, so you think you probably got here faster previously. But you think by nightfall you'd be able to clear it.
Might pay to stop and make a camp quickly. You might leave a message for Felix. I'm assuming before Felix has left, he's insinuating, like he's explained that he's going to catch up with us later.
Absolutely.
So he does plan to catch up with us.
He wasn't making a very little sense when he left.
No.
Obviously, he's confused. Probably being with Jamie wasn't a great idea, but he's obviously
influence.
confused and not really kind of. He's travelled a great length of time to meet yourself, as far as you know, and been hit by a big change in his worldview, and he's obviously coming to terms with that. You believe that his intention was to follow you.
Cool. Might pay to just to have a small rest. We can just leave some messages for him.
Sure.
A little stop
Wouldn't
along the
hurt.
way to make sure he's.
Wouldn't hurt to arrive at Spetacasa fresh, would it?
Are there any scenery in the area, or is it just completely
It's
desolate?
pretty much just rolling hills, and it's beautiful. It's really nice to look at, but you are also kind of harrowed by the fact of how open it is. You don't know whether it's an intention to. Absolutely,
hovel.
you could dig a hole if you wanted to dig a hole.
That is what Badger Thorny is trying to indicate.
Yeah.
In case you wanted it.
Sure.
And he's digging. Or
Yeah.
Oh, like a
You dig a
hovel.
warren. Then you can
Warren?
dig,
Sleep
you dig
in a
a hole.
warren. That's amazing.
Yeah, you can absolutely dig a hole as big as you want it to be. The ground is easily malleable. It's beautiful. It's very lush, and this grass obviously grows, and it doesn't have deep roots at all. And under that is a rich, fertile grass. It's obvious that nothing is grown here, not by lack of available nutrient. I think it's a beautiful land.
How far do you think we've been walking since leaving Bastion to setting up camp? How long have we been walking?
Since leaving Bastion.
Yeah, I want to get an idea of like how vast. What's the kind of ground we've covered of just
Yeah, so you've been
uncultivated.
travelling.
Just
You've been travelling for about half a day. You'd
Okay,
say.
yeah.
So easily 4 hours.
yeah. Does seem entirely wasteful, doesn't it? Everybody's fighting for land, and there's just
You
Certainly
know,
does.
as well as obviously you've heard stories. It's all kind of piecing together now. But you've heard stories of walls being erected around the Elven land, about this boundaries being pushed as well.
Atlantrix did explain that in Whip was one of those towns which was captured in one of those
Absolutely.
expansionist movements.
They're pushing
Mountain
further and
town.
further out,
Yeah.
but they don't seem to be doing anything with the land that they're taking. Seems odd.
What is this Atlantrix? Is this like a reserve? Are they? Do elves deem that everybody else is corrupting the land and they're? Is this like a sanctuary? Is this what they believe? What is this?
I think there's some truth to that. The elves have, from what I've read of the August text, the elves have great disdain and mistrust, particularly of the humans. They've been, there's a history of them pushing them out.
Yeah. Weird.
So we'll sleep in the warren.
Yeah, so you dig out a big hole. What does this kind of warren look like? How are you preparing this hole or a set? I suppose you
It's-
being a badger.
What? It's Badger width,
Yeah.
Giant badger width.
Giant badger width,
Okay.
for quite some time.
Yeah.
And then it opens out into this kind of, I guess, aubergine shape,
Yeah. Nice.
which is not quite enough for people to stand up in, maybe Zolan.
Oh yes, it's homely. This is.
Yeah. But enough for everyone to lie down, or at least sit.
47.
47. Yeah, we're doing alright. That's just that code.
Don't mind.
It's the meaning of life. If you've been in.
47.
Now you've got to watch back all the episodes to see all the other random numbers,
Yeah.
put them together, and you might just win the lottery.
You work out the star.
You imagine if that happened.
You work out
Holy
what
moly.
star engine is if you go back and put all the numbers together. So, aubergine shaped. Absolutely.
And just as dark in there.
And just obviously very dark in there.
That is eggplant for the international viewers.
Yeah, if you're from the States, that's an eggplant.
Yeah.
There you go. So you all head down to this warren.
Oh,
Most
yeah.
of you can see, of course. I apologise again for pointing out.
It's
the
all
fact.
right. It's a hole in the
It's
ground.
not.
There's not an awful lot that I need to see, so it's a hole in the ground, isn't it?
Absolutely.
How warm is a badger set?
Really warm if you're covered in fur. What I have done for everyone, so aubergine shaped, but
Yeah.
obviously a flat floor. But I've made little bunks.
Oh.
a little
So
wells in
they've
there.
all been dug in.
Yeah.
Have I got a human sized one?
No, you've got a precision made, and I know that I know how you sleep. I've got the width.
It does.
I sleep like half as much as you, so I watch you
Nah.
for 4 hours.
It does fill me with joy when I get to sleep in a big bed. There is something really satisfying about burying yourself in amongst the
And-
duvet, but
Thorny would know that.
Would he?
So what he's done
it's making me
is
a
given
part
you
of
the
that.
biggest bed.
Oh yes.
And he's tried to groove it for you, so it's not
nice.
flat because it is just mud.
And ours gnome sized.
We could
Yes,
stop in the corner like that.
you've got a bunk bed.
Absolutely. So you rest
Yes.
and have a wonderful time doing it. Do you set a watch at all, or are you happy that you're under the earth and you're
Well,
going to
yeah, I will revert now that this is done. I'm going to, I'll just chill at the hole with some leaves.
Pretty. I'm
Just
going to
looking
guess
up.
it's pretty well disguised. You know, nobody's going to will have done this far enough back from the road to.
Yeah, it's going to be covered in leaves.
Mm.
I will occasionally
Pete?
peep
This little head pops up.
Yeah.
with my attached bracken and leaves.
Attached. Absolutely. So the rest of the day whittles on, and you don't see anything for a long period of time, but eventually it comes to sunset. As the sun sets, you do hear footsteps toing and froing. It's up to you if you want to act on it or if you're quite happy. You're pretty sure that you're sheltered, so it's unlikely anyone will be able to see you unless you're deliberately looking for a badger. So it's up to you whether you want to act or do anything at this point.
Just going to keep as much awareness on it as possible.
Absolutely. Its footsteps come in. You think there's two individuals. They're coming from the north and they're travelling south. As they get closer, it's hard to see, but obviously you can see a certain distance. It's 60 foot in the dark, I want to
Yes.
say. Cool.
Yes.
So you can see in dim lit, 60 foot. It's quite obvious from where you are that the two individuals are elven and they are armed. They're obviously guards of some description. Obviously they can see in the dark as well, so there's no torches or anything like that, and they're very soft of foot. So they're not talking to one another, they're pretty well disciplined, but they're all walking down this path.
They look just to carry.
Not as far as you're aware. You haven't seen, funnily enough, you've been in the Elvenlands a long time and you haven't seen kind of your average Elven Equine military. You've seen kind of these big military frock coats of kind of officers, but you haven't really seen a regular individual, if that makes sense. So you don't know immediately who these people are, but they seem to be some kind of, almost like a guard of some nature. But you think they'll just pass you by if you stay hidden?
Yep. Which is what we're going to do.
Absolutely. So you stay hidden, and they do eventually pass you by. But you log the fact that obviously there are patrols that are travelling down this road. Obviously, it's happened after nightfall. We don't know how frequent they are, or whether they're deliberately travelling to pass a message. It's hard to tell, but they do pass. The rest of the night seems to go on without any great shakes. Nothing in particular happens. Round about the early hours of the morning, everyone is well rested, because you only took 4 hours of rest as well yourself.
Yes.
So you seem to be able to well rest, and you take that time. So feel free to everyone benefit from the fact that you've had a long rest.
Woo! Zola needs a
Got the
good
key
sleep
back.
now. Zola needs 2 long rests a day. Now he's getting old.
It's the early hours of the morning. The sun rises relatively early because we are in a golden spell, so we're in the warmer season, if you like. There are only 2 major seasons in Asher, and we're in the warmer of the 2, which means that the sun rises very early and sets quite late. So you emerge slightly muddy from the Badger set, and you're confronted again with this great northern stretch. Would anyone like to do anything different or do anything before travelling north?
I haven't chosen what spells I was going to prepare, but I was going to change my prepared spells,
Yeah,
which
okay.
I will probably do in a minute. I'll actually look through it.
Yeah, sure.
No worries.
We'll assume that you prepared them.
Yeah,
Feel free
yeah.
to keep looking as we
Yeah.
go. And you also do something during a long rest? You have to roll.
Oh, I get to make an experimental
Take-
elixir.
take-
Bravo! Thank you very much for reminding me. What flavour is that? An oon.
Number
I
uno.
will find out what an oon gives me in a moment.
Marvellous. So, unless anyone says any different, you proceed to travel north.
I will let everyone know about what I've seen
Absolutely.
on this journey.
You don't see anybody patrolling as you're travelling north.
Patrols don't normally come this far north.
Are you calling me a liar?
Well,
He's adjusting back to his vocal cords.
from what I've seen anyway, they normally stick to the borders.
Do you think the giant explosion has drawn them out?
I mean, it's a reasonable guess.
You continue to travel north. You are welcome, by the way, Elantrix, to roll some kind of investigation check if you want to kind of unpack that further based on what you know.
No, she's got.
Yeah.
Yeah, she has enough of an idea.
Cool, that's fine. You continue to travel north, and you don't travel very far until you see something rather odd. The road kind of meanders, which it hasn't been for a while. It's been straight as an arrow for a very long time, almost naturally straight. And it starts to weave in between a few hills, and you lose a bit of sight as to what's coming up. But when you pass this kind of weaving through the hills, you're confronted by a relatively strange sight that's going to be very difficult to hide from, if you like. Up front, the road becomes straight once more. It starts going straight. But you have these, what can only be described as obelisks in the distance that rise out of both sides of the road. There are some figures, it's quite a long way off, you're probably easily kind of 500 to 1,000 feet away, so you can only just make out that there are some figures. So if you're going to, for example, hide off the road, now would be the chance to do it, before I describe too much more. But you do have these huge obelisks that rise out. You're not sure what they're made out of, they look relatively metallic, but it's hard to tell in the sun. And they rise straight up out of the ground. You can't make details out right now. However, if you were to strain your eyes, there seems to be a very long distance, and then another one. These obelisks kind of rise out of the ground. And then another very long distance, and just if you strain even further, just in the periphery of your vision, you'll be able to see yet another one rise out of the ground.
And I've not seen these before.
No, this is completely unusual to you.
These are new.
I'm definitely going to quiz you on how tall you think that is. How tall you reckon that is? 1,000 miles?
The obelisk.
The obelisk, yeah. How tall do you reckon that is?
How tall roughly is the obelisk?
You'd think they're probably
800 miles.
24 foot tall. Yeah,
It's
probably
at least 3 miles.
3 miles. Is that a genuine answer? It would be funny. Okay, cool.
She does say that.
Does she? Right, yeah. I just. You can tell he's smirking. He's like, yeah,
And then she
idiots.
looks at you and just sort of winks.
Yeah, he's definitely not seen it. He believes that, yeah. He's like, idiots, yeah.
Do you reckon that's the curtain?
Well,
Some
it's,
sort of
it's new.
energy.
I guess I've heard it's a gnomish device. Does it look at all similar to anything I might know? If I've
It's too far away at this point.
Interesting. Okay.
They just look like obelisks
Cool.
at this distance. Like I say, unless you are actively hiding yourselves.
I think it'd be a good idea if we sort of got off the road and lay down in the grass, kept out of sight for a bit until we figure out what we're going to do about this.
Healing
Shall I,
potion.
shall I go first and scope it out? I'm the least suspicious, probably, as I'm heading to my people's home.
You could, yeah.
I could come with you, as these are supposedly being, if it is the curtain, they were created by the gnomes.
Oh,
Potentially.
with our familiar.
I mean, if this is some sort of barrier that we've got to get through, I mean, it doesn't look like there's anything there. So we need to know if we're going to be able to just walk straight through this, or if something horrible is going to happen to us.
Not?
What do you want me to do?
You can see magic. Are they alright?
He looks up, and it seems to take a while. He straightens his eyes, and his visage, if you like, this thing that's covering, just flicker slightly. He's obviously straining himself to kind of look forward. And for a moment, you see a void of eyes, kind of this blackness, as he looks forward. It's hard to tell from this distance. There does seem to be something between them. Not the two next to the road, but the rest of them. There's definitely something passing between them.
Ooh.
Can you make yourself look like somebody who would not immediately get stabbed, shot, arrested by approaching close enough so that you can investigate these if you go with Elantrix?
Of course.
Take them with you then.
I wouldn't give them too long to take a look.
Me
Have to be
and
something
Thorin
very
are right
innocuous.
here. You guys go and see what you can find out.
Okay.
Noct changes his form again, and funnily enough, even in the dim light, you'll notice that the form that he takes is of some kind of guard. He's wearing kind of light, not plate armour, but there's kind of pieces of plate mail over a chain vest and a relatively flowing blue coat that's worn over the top. And he seems elven in his look. Well, let's go further.
They'll have to teach me that party trick.
Well, this is less of a party trick and more of a gifting. I'm sure I can tell you more about it sometime.
I'd like to learn. Stop us before we hit the energy shield.
He travels. You travel further north together, and is anyone else coming with them?
Would I come with you?
Too?
Or would you like me to stay? It's up to you, Elantrix. If you think it's safer for me to stay, I'll stay.
Come on, Ted.
Yay!
You go closer. As you go closer, you're travelling closer. Not suddenly seems so. You're within kind of. Let's say you were 500 feet away. You're probably about. You start encroaching up. You get very close. You start to get about 250 feet. By this point, you notice that on the road there are two guards, and they're obviously stationed there. There also seems to be on the far side of the obelisk some kind of station house, like a knocked-together building that these guards have been using as some kind of administrative place. There's a little window in it, and they seem to be using that some kind of administration. You don't know if there's just two guards, if there's more in there. You're not entirely sure.
I'm assuming that we're still far enough away from Spetikaza that we can't actually see the town.
You cannot see Spetikaza.
It's not like this is a wall around or
No.
an invisible wall around the town. We're still.
You can't see it, and obviously it's putatively very, very tall. So you think you'd be able to see it by now, but it's quite weird the fact that you can't see it. Elantrix would know you're still a fair way off from Spetikaza.
Make a no bow.
Who has a permit to come through? I remember Malcolm's is half finished.
Felix had a permit. Felix had a
Forged document.
forged document of ownership from me.
What about
Thorinir, you had a
I'm not with you.
permit. No, but I think Thorinir had a permit.
But off the record, yes.
Yeah, we
And
don't.
I've got a guest.
We have a guest. Ooh.
Aye.
I think they've.
But you'll have to come back and find that out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you, Zoe?
No, I wasn't given anything.
You had ownership of a dog.
Didn't know if they assumed that maybe my race might have maybe allowed me to pass.
So you had
The curtain.
you had had an ownership construct by
Yeah.
So Felix was an owned construct by yourself.
Yeah.
as well.
I think
Forge
Felix
something.
owns that document. I think it's still.
Yeah,
I think he's got it.
I've got an unfinished ID,
Yeah, yours was unfinished.
Yeah. but I've also got Sildar's.
That's true.
Was he human or was he elf?
He was elf.
Was he
So
elf?
Elf, not elf.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Okay.
You travel further north, and immediately Not says not the two in the centre. The rest of them, there seems to be some kind of energy radiating between the pillars. Seems to be some form of evocation magic.
So not so I can picture it. There's multiple columns,
Yes,
obelisks.
there's two columns either side of the road,
Yeah.
and then if you really strain your eyes, you can see another two further away.
By further away, behind or to the side?
to the side.
Okay.
Yes, they go
Yeah.
it's
I was
parallel,
picturing it along the road.
perpendicular.
It's
to
a
the road.
wall, basically.
Apologies, yes,
Yeah.
perpendicular
Yeah.
to the road.
Okay.
Or a
Um,
curtain, perhaps.
Perhaps a curtain.
Perhaps.
Do you know what curtains you have in your house, Solon?
Probably.
So there's only got one, and have the usual two. All the way out.
Funnily enough, as you get closer, they are clearly metallic. So these things have been constructed out of some kind of metallic substance. Towards the top, there's almost like a small crenellation around the top, and then there is something shiny right at the very top. You're not entirely sure what it is. It would take you some kind of investigation roll to figure out what's happening. Either arcane or investigation or anything to do with your artificer knowledge might be able to help you figure out what this thing is.
Would you like me to roll?
I would, yeah.
Okay.
Unless you were deliberately trying not to find out what it is.
No, I
any
was
sort of
wondering if-
role, that you think you might need
Just
to
going to
make.
start climbing the obelisk. All the way to the top. No, I will not climb
You
it.
are obviously
You've got
approaching
climbers back.
as this happens.
I do have pitons, yeah, and stuff. Interesting. If from what I choose, I'll get different
That is true,
information. I'm going to start with an Arcana check.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think
You know that there's evocation magic going on. It's not told you.
not very particularly knowledgeable of evocation magic. It's a dirty 19 for an
That'll do it.
arcane check. Arcana, sorry, not arcane. Arcana.
It appears, from your knowledge of from your knowledge of gnomish constructs, it's obvious that this is a gnomish construct. Just in the way it's been built, the way it looks, it's quite obvious that this has been used. You've seen similar devices before.
Yeah.
The thing shining at the top is, you think they don't have a full name. You dislike the naming conventions that have been given to them, but quite often you hear them described as thunder crystals.
Dislike most things, especially thunder crystals.
Yeah, they're not
Stupid name.
They're not. People give them different names. They're kind of
Yeah.
used in different texts and different things, but they're quite commonly referred to as thunder crystals. You are pretty sure the use of them in most cases is to absorb energy.
Yes.
You are pretty sure it is absorbing energy from the sun.
Oh, cool.
Thunder.
Sun, idiots.
And that's the major real problem we have.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're absorbing energy from, at this point, you believe the sun, just by the way it's glowing in the sunlight.
Cool. Yeah.
That's obviously charging something. There's some kind of evocation
Yeah.
magic passing between them. Not the two either side of the road. There's nothing passing between those two. But the rest of them that form this wall, if you like, have some form of evocation magic passing between them.
Cool.
But it's invisible. We can't see
You
buzzing.
can't physically see it.
No.
There's nothing you can see.
Is there no sort of physical manifestation, buzzing,
Not from this
weird
distance.
feeling in your teeth, something like that.
Nothing from this distance.
It's not tuning into radio.
Now, do we all go together? Because we're not right up there yet, are we?
No.
We either all go together, or we split, and I try and take one of them through, and Not tries to take the other one through, because I think we've got the best chance.
What about Felix? How's Felix going to get through this gate without us?
He'll have to work that one out himself.
That'd be good. He should play his own game for that.
He'll just run at it and cut through with his
He
sword.
would, yeah. The Great Escape.
So, together or in twos?
Hang on, you guys are still up there
Yeah.
at the moment.
We're just getting close enough to scout it.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave. I don't want us to go through
Yeah.
and leave these two because
How
they've
many-
got.
How many guards?
You can only see
Can I
two.
see two, but
There
there's
is-
a bill.
There does seem to be some kind of put together building on the other side. It's obviously been used as some kind of administration. You know these Gnomish devices are probably self-deploying in some way.
Yeah.
There's obviously been a team here to put them there. They've kind of been erected relatively quickly. You, of course, just by looking at them, have no idea why the elves are doing this.
I've no idea why the gnomes are doing this.
Absolutely. It's a strange... It's very odd. Even Elantrix would find this... You know the elves probably more than anyone else, but it's quite a strange thing to do, to suddenly lock off a road in the middle of their own lands for seemingly no reason. And you haven't seen anyone passing this way either, other than two guards. Right? So it's not like it's a well-travelled road.
What's better? We all go together or separately?
I think we'll have to go all go together, I think. We can't have a couple of us get through. There's no way that we can get back. If we go through and the others don't, there's no way we're going to be able to get them through ever.
This is like having your birthday when you're in July and everyone else gets in the club because they're already 18.
Yeah.
17-year-old Carl's at the back of the queue and have to go home.
Yeah.
Or 21 in America.
Yeah,
Oh,
21.
21.
You've got longer to wait.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. We'll get everyone then, shall we?
So you
Yeah.
regroup together. Obviously, these guards are probably seeing you in the distance, kind of come closer and back off, and kind of come close again. They don't seem to have They don't seem to have made any obvious inflection that would be strange in any way. But they seem to have barely moved. In fact, but you gather them together and you approach. As you get closer, much like the uniform that Not had donned, these guys look very similar. They're dressed in a very similar fashion. You notice that Not kind of sidles his way to the back of the pack and stays out of the way, if you like. And you get closer. Do you form an orderly queue? Do you kind of approach as a group? What's kind of the running order?
As we're approaching, we've got to work out who's going to get through here.
Yeah. Let's have more of a plan than Callus.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But we're all approaching and we're like, and we're noticeably trying to
Keep going
Get
in and out of the
together.
tree line.
Yes.
Nonchalant
We'll-
walking. Oh, in the
We'll have had this discussion before we approach the thing. The thing is, I don't have official ID or passes to get me through here, but I do have my military ID from when I was part of the Equine militia.
Yeah.
That might get me in.
Do you know if ledgers are up to date with who's on
No.
record and
No,
who's defected?
I
You
have no idea.
why
But,
did you leave the militia?
Things were going bad in Equa, and my sponsor realised that it would be a bad place for me to be, so he got me out.
Sponsor?
All above board and they're happily have you returned?
To be honest, I don't know. I think after this time, I think I would probably there would be some that would see me as a deserter, but I have no idea what my official status is. But I do have a military rank, so it might be enough for me to get through.
I think I go through last. But if you send them, I'm surely the easiest to get through, and there's going to be a series of suspicious conversations about to take place.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want the most suspicious person, the one dressed as a burnt elf with trees going out of his hair, to come through last.
He's shown his invite. I have been cordially invited.
Valid. Valid.
If you've been invited, you have a +1.
Yeah, I've been invited with special guest Elantrix. So
There's some things
I
I can
I
do
could-
for you, Malcolm, maybe.
Does it specifically say Elantrix on your...
if I wrote it down correctly,
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So
why might that have been?
Why would I be your guest?
Yeah, why?
Because this is my home.
That's what I'm asking.
It's that way around. So you, Thorinir's invitation was that
He was my...
to use your
Guest.
guest into the lamp.
Okay.
Oh,
That makes
that's
more
not what
sense.
I've written down.
That makes a lot more sense.
And I reread it. Oh,
Okay.
he
Fine.
I could-
humbly apologises.
And how about Zolan?
You're not sure. You're pretty sure that Zolan being a gnome might be able to pass through.
All you gotta
without
do-
Too much incredulation.
High vis jacket. Get anywhere. Anywhere in the world with a high vis jacket.
Probably in the
Walk through.
gnome world as
Clipboard, high vis
well.
jacket.
You can inspect these bloody column things.
I could do. Mine's Malkin. I'm worried about what we do with Malkin. I've got a couple of things I can do for you,
He's
Malkin.
your apprentice.
I could be a guard.
The
I
gnome's
could
apprentice.
be their travelling guard.
I have kit that we can help disguise you. Maybe we can make you look like Sildon, but that
What
would
did we pick up at a disguise kit?
Yeah.
no. But I have. So, I was going.
definitely thoroughly picked up.
I was going to
disguise kit.
prepare. I was going to prepare some spells in the night, and I was changing some out. So
I've got
I
Sildon's ID.
I
If you can make me look like
would
him.
have to ask Not if that is a reasonable suggestion. Does he have any idea of what
Like
the
what-
elves think of Sildon? Do they
All
know
of
he's
Sildon's
deserted?
ID and a disguise kit was probably an open invitation to do what you think.
I can produce potentially an invisibility concoction. That's going to take time though. We might be able to get you through invisibly.
I'm going to
What about not?
use my Channel Divinity,
Mm-hmm.
Knowledge of the Ages,
Damn.
for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I have the ability to gain proficiency with any skill or tool. I'm going to gain proficiency with Deception
Nice.
for 10 minutes.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Because that feels useful.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Do it.
I might use some other stuff as well.
I was going to say, do we want to try and make you look more like Sildon? You can use his ID.
If I use his
And his
ID, what's
papers?
not going to do?
Well,
What
we
are you
know-
going to
we,
do,
We know
Not?
that Not can definitely make Sildon's face.
I can change my appearance as long as you don't look at me too closely. I'd probably pass right through.
So you don't need ID.
Unlikely.
In all honesty, it might sound ridiculous. We can scout the wall, and remember, I give you a potion a couple of days ago.
Yes.
It'll give you actually flying speed for 10 minutes. There's a potential if there's a break in the wall that you might actually be able to slowly levitate your way over the curtain, provided the curtain stops at the thunder
Why are you
crystal's
always
height.
trying to get Malcolm to levitate?
It'd be brilliant if he just runs up and just jumps. It's slowly.
Hey, I'm willing to give that a go.
This potion, you move slowly. It's not your speed will be 10 feet. You're gonna very slowly
Do these things
climb
zap?
over this curtain. That's a possibility, providing there's not that many guard posts up the stretch of this curtain.
Obviously, you started to walk towards this gate, and you've been chatting about this as you walk. It's not a great place to hide. The guards have obviously noticed that you've been chatting to one another for a fairly extended period of time.
Such a ridiculous idea.
Put it good work.
Yeah, they're obviously trying to. They look over to one another as,
Two
as
guards,
you're
can we
approaching,
just
as
take
you're
them?
kind of slowing down and talking to one another
No.
more and more.
He's never let us down before. Just take the guards.
Last time we took,
Oh yeah,
last time we
okay.
took the
All right, it
guards.
has let us down every time we've tried that.
Oh, I
Okay,
can't see it. Where is it?
I
Okay.
think
It's one of Allah's
Let's just
glories.
approach. We're approaching.
we're approaching.
in what
Okay.
order? Who's first? We've only got Elantrix who said she wanted to go last, and everyone
Oh.
else.
Okay, can you run? Can you make me look like Silden?
Probably not.
Not
now.
in this time,
No,
no. Not
too
in this
late.
time, no. It's too
Okay.
late, yeah.
I'm just gonna have to bluff it.
So who's up first?
Let's go for it.
With that, Not goes first.
That's all right.
And he looks elven. So he kind of is the first up. He walks up, and the elves do look at him. And they look at one another, having seen him with you guys kind of having a conversation, which clearly means that they look a little bit closer than would do normally. And they kind of nod and kind of just wave him through, and not pass us
That
through.
was a good dice roll, wasn't it?
Only just.
He's not walked through.
And he walks through, the two kind of wave him through, but they look vaguely suspiciously at the rest of you. Not obviously as he travels through, does drag his heels just a little bit, because he would quite like to be with the rest of the pack should everything go
Yeah.
terribly wrong. Who's next?
How close are we?
You're only kind of 40 feet away at this point. They can obviously see you.
Right. Arrow, fling the arrow.
You're not still a badger. are you?
No, not.
Okay. I'm gonna even though I'm at the back. I'm gonna call out. What is this? To the guards. This is new.
What language do you speak?
Elvish.
Very good. They do respond back. They respond back in Elvish, so I believe all of you understand. So immediately it's Vershara Shuranda as it comes out, and it is we've been charged to protect this area. It's none of your concern what this is. Step forward and hand me your papers.
Okay. So
I kind of hand it to you real
yeah,
quick.
I'm still staying at the back with you, Thorny.
I don't have no papers.
We weren't aware that we required papers to walk along this road.
You'll need papers everywhere in this land. What are you doing here? What purpose does a human, a gnome, and at least an elf have in this area?
Well, the elf is a guest of a resident of Spetagaza.
You're an augur. You're quite a distance off. He
I
doesn't
walk over.
notice that you.
Yes, I am. And I didn't expect to be greeted home by this.
My apologies. There's been a lot of banditry in this area. We seek only to keep Spetagaza safe from those who wish to harm it. Our alliance is still very much in place.
Okay, good.
I'm her guard and travelling companion. As you say, there's a lot of banditry in the area.
He looks over you and goes back to Elantrix. Can you verify the story of this human?
Yes, of course.
Do you have any identification on you?
I have my military rank from the militia of Equa, where I was seconded.
You hand it over, and is it like an insignia? What's
Yes, it's what used to be on my uniform.
Absolutely.
We never actually worked out what the actual rank was, so I'm going
No.
to say I'm a lieutenant.
Lieutenant? Yeah.
The king.
It isn't.
Oh, we need your bloodline. We need
I am the king of Equa, you stupid little man.
Absolutely. So
No.
you hand over this lieutenant rank.
I'm a lieutenant in the.
What does it look like? Is it like an amulet or like
It's
a badge?
a military badge, brass, like, sort of like a medallion.
And you hand it to this guard, and he takes it, and you notice he takes great pains for you not to be touched by you, which is quite a strange thing, but he's obviously deliberately trying not to be touched by you. And he takes a look at it. You notice another elf appears out of this put together kind of structure. He's not armoured, he's wearing kind of a black silk, almost like a robe. Those of you who know elves, he's obviously some kind of bureaucrat of some description. And this guard kind of shows this rank over his shoulder. This bureaucrat does actually peep just very slightly over the shoulder of what's going on and kind of looks at you. They very subtly exchange some kind of glance that you're not sure. And then the guard turns back to you and says, I hope.
I've got my best innocent and
Like this.
friendly face on.
He hands it back to you, and you notice that he does drop it into your hand. Obviously, not to be touched by you in some strange way. You've seen elves before. You probably experienced this kind of behaviour before, especially provincial kind of elves. They are very distrusting of humans. Very well, you two may pass. I appreciate it if you kept to the road, and I'd appreciate it if you kept your companion out of trouble.
Of course.
And the other two?
Have I got this or have you got this?
Did you passed it over to me?
I
didn't you?
passed it, yeah.
He's with me, and she produces this
Absolutely.
document.
The guard takes a look at it, and immediately this bureaucrat comes out and passes it over. He actually does pull out a very small brass pair of optics, and you'll know that optics are incredibly expensive, incredibly rare. Elves use them, not many other races, perhaps gnomes in other ranks. You've seen goggles before, but not optics particularly. And takes a look at it and really, really inspects it. Really gets close to this thing. It's obviously fairly unusual for this to happen. It's probably the most unusual thing that's happened in weeks in this area. So it really tries to look it back. Eventually, the guard and this bureaucrat exchange a glance. They pass this piece of paper back, and he says, "Very well, you may come through." I wasn't expecting anyone of your nature to pass through here today. Can I have your name?
Frederick. Hold up.
Are you trying to remember a specific gnome's name?
Friedrich, yes.
Oh,
Friedrich.
Oh, now I get you.
Friedrich. I've been.
Doesn't
Yeah, he
accidentally
passed,
say Frederick first.
not 4 days ago.
Yeah, we got into some trouble down in Willem
Yes.
with one of the Destructo 5000s malfunctioned.
Right.
Yes, I know. It had been retrofitted with the upgrades to the 6000, but the technician that's done it is.
Okay.
Yeah, you know what apprentices are like.
Do they need support?
No, I'm coming back for supplies.
Fair enough.
We've left them down there with my companion. There's a little dog. You may see him.
Yeah.
He'll be coming up through. Felix is his name.
Oh, a dog?
Fur Knight of Equa. Remember the Fur Knights of Equa?
And you have papers for him?
He has papers for himself.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
A certificate of ownership, perhaps?
He's very particular that he's his own pup. So he would like to hold the certificate rather than me. He's very particular, but
It's very strange. I'm not sure if I could...
I entertain him. He carries a 5-foot sword. He's my protector. He's pretty fantastic. Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to mess with him.
And that'd be under your name?
Yes.
Yeah, Friedrich.
Oh God, yes. Yes, it is. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
we'll make it, and should he pass through here, we'll make sure we send
I think
words
he's
to the
watching in chat. So
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
absolutely. Well, come on through.
What's your surname there, Friedrich? Your family name?
My family name
You've got a
is.
middle name and a family name.
Yeah.
The document might be written in.
We don't tend to have that many last names in Gnomish.
The name of the last name is a fairly rare.
Yeah, it's even in the Bear's Handbook.
Yeah.
It does say it's a rare thing.
Just thought that Felix's document might be written in a different name.
Might be, yeah. Zolan being my last name, you're thinking?
Maybe.
Maybe, yeah. That is true, actually. I have a very... Thinking about it, I come from a prestigious family of Zolans.
Right?
It's been a bloody long time since I've been home.
should have just shot
Can
them.
you roll,
It's very
can you
forgetful.
roll a deception check?
Of course I can, yeah,
I'll
of course,
just
yeah.
shoot them. Entirely
Entirely deceiving, I am.
I'll just jump over them.
Well, even the part.
Falcon starts steady flying over the
It's a 14.
14.
That's a good roll. For level 5, that's pretty decent.
Very well. So a Fur Knight will come through here with a document for the name of Zolan, which
Yeah.
is your family name.
My family name, yeah.
Very well. I didn't know you had a family name.
Not many do, but
But
It's
I
just
thank you very, very much for your help in Willem. We have got many commendations for you.
we haven't finished it yet. But yeah, we're making good progress. Bit of a setback.
Between me and you don't have a lot of time.
Yeah,
There are conversations that need to be finished very shortly.
this is really. Maybe I'll be coming back through the gate soon. Then who knows?
Okay.
Maybe not. Surely.
He seems quite genial with you all of a sudden.
I'm gonna have to whip those boys into shape down there, to be honest, because, yeah, in all honesty, I was a bit of sitting on laurels for a little bit.
I recommend
Just because the Destructo 5000's broken doesn't mean you can sit on your ass, does it? Try telling those boys. Bloody hell. I know.
The two guards stand aside, and you are you start to walk through, and they do look at yourself thoroughly. So you said that you had some kind of paperwork for this.
It was on, wasn't it not on the same letter? Was it not a him?
Yes, they do
Me?
recheck it, and they obviously have already got it. I completely forgot about that. Thank you very much. So you do get waved. You get waved through, and you travel through this gate. As that happens, this you notice as you look into this kind of makeshift container, and there's a small mess hall within. You can kind of see through a window. There's a little desk. There's a small mess hall, which is just a table. You do see another 4 guards all sat around the table in there playing some kind of chess. You're not entirely sure, something with a board, but they are all sat in there. As you walk through, this bureaucratic individual in his robes is making notes on some kind of paper. Obviously made notes of Friedrich's name, first and second name, and everyone who's passing through this gate. Unless you stop or interact with them in any way, you are free to pass through.
We'll keep going.
I nearly lost me cool then, boys and girls.
You notice as you walk through that all of the guards are looking squarely at you, Malcolm. Everyone else seems to pass through all right, but all the guards kind of stop what they're doing when they're playing chess and they look over towards you. And they are obviously talking to one another. Most of them are whispering. Some of them aren't, because they're making the assumption you don't speak Elvish. But they are speaking fairly loudly. And they're obviously talking about, it's very strange to see a human this far north. I wonder what he's doing here. And they're kind of talking about it. And the bureaucrat does turn around and kind of glare at them and says under his breath, he does speak it, be quiet. And they stop speaking. You travel further north. As you do, Elantrix will know you are getting very close to the place of Spetikaza.
Well, that wasn't too hard, was it?
Can you see the bell?
Also, I'm exactly what I'm thinking. Where's the bell?
You told me any time you went in a city, something went wrong, Zone. Congratulations. You got through.
Yeah.
Early days yet.
That is possibly the only successful entrance into anywhere we have ever done.
Well,
So
Felix has to make it fast as well.
And that's roughly how I pictured when writing it, the entrance to Callus. How wrong we were.
That's kind of how I was hoping the entrance to
Absolutely.
Callus. That was when I initially walked up to the guard at that point, thinking this might work. That was generally how I was expecting it to go.
But look how much we've developed.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a little bit touch and go for a while, but you did manage to do it, so very well done.
Just keep rambling, Mayweather.
Absolutely.
If I would have started to play.
Ship rattled.
Start-
Well,
Right.
exactly. You practice your play and you do a fuck ton of magic.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, congratulations. As you travel further north, you kind of see these relatively large hills. It's getting the land is less undulating now, starting to get more 3D, should we like, more sculpted. As you travel further, you notice the road starts to go down and starts to kind of head down towards some kind of crevice, perhaps hiding, for example, a very large town. As these hills kind of rise above you and the track starts to dip into the earth. And with that, relatively in a relatively dramatic turn of events, we will end our session for this evening.
It's got to be at least 10,000 XP for getting through the gate.
We got in. We didn't have to
Congratulations.
kill anybody to do it.
I apologise for the early end. It's slightly because that's the end of my term as a
No!
dungeon
No.
master. So apologies.
We're gonna have to go back to that other one.
Stu!
Come on, Stu!
So it's partly because we've come to the end of this part of our story, and partly because we had a technical issue that we're trying to overcome over time that nobody's noticed. So it's great because nothing bad has happened yet.
47.
47. So yeah, I'd just like to take a moment to say thank you very much for being the players and allowing me to experiment with being the Dungeon Master for a little while. Thank you very much to Jack, who has made this beautiful creative world of Asher, and it's been wonderful to play around, make mistakes, and enjoy the world you've created. So thank you very much. I want to take some time to say thank you to everyone who sat out and watched this. Hugely appreciative of you spending your time allowing us to play, have fun, do a hobby, and bring you guys along for some kind of journey. So it's been amazing to partake in that. Yeah, it's been an emotional road, guys.
Been
I'm
good
really-
fun. Very
thank
good
you
fun.
Ollie, you did really well.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank
really
you
good.
very much.
Phenomenal.
Thank you.
Really good stuff.
Yes.
What would have happened if we didn't go to Bastion? What would have happened
Something
if we
would happen.
just...
I could have revealed it, but
Oh, something could have happened.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Might be Basiliski.
Maybe. Oh, you imagine
The
it?
world never stops turning.
Oh, that's a
Nice.
thought. Did we just accidentally annihilate a basilisk
Who knows?
and its nests? And
You'd have to go and
As
investigate.
far as the Landrix is concerned, they don't exist in these elven lands. She's very staunch on that belief as well.
Thorny could have tamed that and took it along
Do you reckon?
as a weapon.
Imagine
Weapon.
riding,
Turned
the
every
war.
one of those guards into stone.
imagine riding that
Been
through
your
the
mate.
curtain.
Yeah. So before I close as Dungeon Master, are there any questions, any things that have been left on your person or on your character, or anything you weren't quite sure about that you want me to describe for you or talk about before we end it for this evening?
Nay.
Could you
Okay.
just double check with me what Sildon's real name was? Was it Eldori Renthar?
His
Was it
real
Eldori or
name.
Eldari? I didn't know if it was
And you've assumed that's his real name.
I've
Very
assumed it
interesting.
is, yeah.
It was Eldori Renthar.
Cool, that's what I've got written, yeah.
Eldorirenthar.
Cool.
You had a deed to some land,
Yeah.
that it was
Unknown land.
a son of a duke. Was the individual.
I'll write that down. Son of a Jew.
Apparently, he went
Son of a
missing
duke.
3 years ago. As far as you, so one of you rolled a history check and found out that he went missing roughly 3 years ago.
yeah, I've got his documents of land ownership,
Yeah.
and I've got his ID.
How long have we been a party of adventurers in time,
In what time?
in Asher time?
Asher time.
In Asher time.
We've been asleep for 2 years.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Me and
And
Elantrix
then-
have probably spent the most time out of everybody in all of the party. We've probably
Yeah.
spent the most time together.
Yeah.
Throughout both campaigns, probably.
Yeah, 2 years and a bit.
Yeah, because actually the initial campaign wasn't particularly long, right? In actual time, we've probably only known each other for 5 or 6, 10 days.
Before we sign off,
We must be level 6.
what's your story, not?
My story. It's not
That's
a,
what we're
there's not a great deal to tell, I'm afraid. I'm I suppose a foundling is the right way to put it. I don't know. There aren't many people like me. I've never met another member of my race. I travelled here and there, lived mostly on my own, fell in with groups and peoples, lived in different homes. Eventually, when you spend enough time with somebody, they learn to see the real you. I'm lucky in the fact that I've been granted several gifts, one of them you've seen, and I use those gifts to keep myself out of trouble. while Void rose, it became increasingly difficult for me to control some of the gifts that I was given. But since his fall, everything has been much clearer. I found a lot of people also struggled with that, and it gave me some use in the world. If nothing else, I'd like to learn more. That's all I know. What in particular did you want to know?
They probably walk into the sunset for a long time together, discussing their combined histories.
Absolutely. Well, with that, we have been rolling.
Thank you and good night.
See you next time.
Hello, boys. Pink lemonade?
More